let's redefine tracking, or maybe put a spin on it. So in education, there's this thing called tracking where certain kids are put on certain tracks based on perceived abilities or historical data that is often subjective and biased. I've used the word tracking as a way to really inform the practice of making sure kids are on the right path to be caught up and put on the path to be successful beyond whatever grade band you're in. I'll give an example. Often I have kids who come in to high school, and typically the first course that the kids should be taking their first year in high school is algebra. But what do you do when kids arrive there and their math skills are so far behind, and we're putting them all into algebra year one? And then you have kids who fail, have to repeat algebra sometimes 1, 2, or 3 years. And some kids are fine. They were fortunate enough to be at a middle school or have a teacher who placed them where they should be. And now all of a sudden we have these kids, and we have these kids all of a sudden that we're labeling as, struggling learners in this area here, or they're being lazy here, or these are our superstar students. Rather than saying, we've done our baseline assessments, we know that these particular students don't have the skill sets, or weren't fortunate enough to have been taught properly or given what they needed. So this is what I did at the high school level. There's a 2-year sequence for algebra, and there's a 1-year sequence for algebra. Based on assessment data, those kids who needed the 2 years to make sure they were brought up to the point, of mastery at the end of the coursework, were put into the 2-year sequence. So they had time to really fill in the gaps, cover pre-algebra, into algebra. And maybe at the end of 10th grade, not maybe, the goal was at the end of 10th grade, they were skilled enough to move on to geometry, and be able to get to geometry and do really well in geometry because now they had the confidence. Then maybe their junior year, they had a choice of doing algebra 2, trigonometry, or statistics. The kids in the 1-year track, same thing. At the end of year 1 of algebra, they're shooting mastery, then they go into geometry, then they go into algebra 2, trigonometry, or statistics. And then the one thing they had an option for is to maybe take a pre-calc course or a calculus course. But my goal for all the kids was that they all left with a math course at a point of mastery beyond geometry. Many schools, kids get to geometry and that's it. My goal was you have to hit, the statistics, algebra 2, trigonometry, stats, those level of math that make you college ready. Okay. So one thing I did to my students, I always told them, this is not you're dumb or less than because you're sitting in a 2-year algebra track or you're better because you're sitting in a 1-year algebra track. This is saying, based on your skill sets and what you have, this is what you need to make sure you're college ready, And I've seen kids who've gone through that, go to college and say, thank you so much. I got here. I didn't have to remediate, And the kids who were able to take the pre-calc said, I got a head start. Hey, I was bumped into a high level math course. But the most important thing is that we have that baseline expectation of where we want our kids to be college ready, versus putting them in a position where they're taking algebra 1 over and over again with us knowing that their arithmetic skills are very, very low, or pre-algebra is non-existent. So we're literally trying to push a circle through a triangle peg, We can't keep doing that. So this is how I re-envision tracking. We put kids on the right track to be successful versus putting them on a track based on this arbitrary, subjective, bias-based belief of what they can or can't do. So let me know what you think. Am I what I'm saying complete nonsense, or are you doing something like this in your school? Talk to you soon. Be well.